Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. I am so glad that you came and joined us this morning. I have yet another actor on Morning Moments today, and I'm pleased to have somebody all the way from Arkansas, Dean Denton. Denton has been involved in television and movies for years, and you may have seen some of the works that he's been on. I am so glad you come to join us, Dean. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and why do you do it?
Well, thanks so much for having me here, Andy. I guess I was about 8 years old, and my parents took me to a John Wayne film, and that film, it was True Grit, and that film hooked me, and I didn't know that it would take me about 50 years after that to get the work as an actor that I really wanted to get. But no, that film just really made me want to be an actor. So um, it took, I guess, like when I was 18 or 19, I worked on a film at the University of Arkansas where I was attending college, and met some actors, and they told me that I needed to go to New York or LA. So eventually that's what I did. I moved out to LA in '89 and worked out there for about 10 years as an actor. Then my son was born with some medical problems, and I got out of the business. My wife and I came back home to Arkansas to focus on our family, and I got out of acting. And then a few years ago, I got back into it. About 9 years ago, I got back into it. And when I was in LA, I tried to do this with, I guess I tried to do it without God, just on my own. And I had a little bit of success, but not a whole lot. And this time, when I got back into it, I decided to do it with God. There's a longer story than what I said earlier, but my wife and I, we went through some problems in 2005. And it was a really rough time, and we didn't really know the Lord. And we grew up in a church, but we really didn't know that we could have a relationship with Jesus. And we just, I think we went to church 2 or 3 times a year for what is it? People go for Christmas and Easter, and so we did that. But anyway, when our marriage fell apart, my wife, after we had seen this counselor that told us that he had never seen a couple with as many problems as we had, which that was not very encouraging, but we just thought we were doomed after that. But a few days after that, I guess it was about a week or so after that, we decided to go to church, and she really found God in this church. And it was a really small church in North Little Rock, Arkansas. And then I guess I followed about a month or so later. I noticed that there was just incredible change in her. She went from a person that I hated to somebody that I wanted to be around. And it was the Holy Spirit that just had filled her. And I wanted that. And I found it too. And God didn't do it overnight, but he restored our marriage. And just, it's incredible to see what he's done in our life. Our kids at the time were unhappy. We were unhappy. We hated each other. And he just restored all of that. And at the time, I wasn't acting at the time. And I never thought moving back to Arkansas that I'd ever be able to act again, but he gave me my career back. And I have worked more in the last few years than I ever did in LA on really big projects. And I know that I mentioned this earlier, but I always thought when I became an actor that, that's for me to get on movies and have fun and make money for my family. But I had no idea that the reason God had me there was to give my testimony to people. And I've been able to do that. I was telling you earlier about, I worked on a Christian film a few years ago, and I just assumed everybody was a Christian on the show. And one of the assistant directors, I was able to witness to him. And when he was looking at me and hearing my story of what God has done in my life and how I just, how he turned our whole life around and restored everything, to see his tears come down and just, I knew right then, this was about almost 5 years ago, I knew right then that's why God has me on movie sets. It's not about me. It's just a witness to people and just tell my story. And so that's why I do what I do.
I've heard more people tell me that they pray that the story will reach folks. And with a faith-based film, you're hoping that there is the message somewhere in the
Yes.
story. But they have also told me that more than just the story, the behind the scenes, like you were saying, God opening doors and either revealing to you what you're supposed to do or revealing how you're supposed to share the gospel with others too.
Yeah, I every set, you know, since I got back into this, and every time that I'm on a set, I pray every time before I walk on that set, just God, just show me who you want me to talk to, and it's just amazing how normally someone always just appears out of nowhere that I would never have thought, you know, that I would be witnessing to. It's just been incredible to see, just to see how he's worked in my life. And um, like I said, I just, for a while, for a long time, I thought being an actor was just, you know, making movies and having fun and being a celebrity or whatever, but that's not why I'm there. And I know God, I know why he puts me there now. And so it really makes the whole process of auditioning, because it's a tough, tough business.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been rejected over I think about 23 or 2,400 times since I started doing this. And that's a lot of no's. That's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And so another thing that I didn't mention, I've tried to help others, actors that are struggling, and I've tried to help them and encourage them and tell them, you know, my plan as far as how I do this and how I just trust in God and put him first.
You know, that is a message that I've heard from a lot of folks about rejection. And it's really tough hearing no all the time.
It really is.
But it doesn't matter if you're an actor or what. None of us are guaranteed the next day's work. None of us are guaranteed the next day of life. None of us is guaranteed anything other than just following Christ on a day-to-day basis and say, God, I die daily to you, and I give today to you whatever you have for me. And it's a step of faith and a step of trust. And I've heard a lot of people said, even in these changing times of COVID, I've had to learn to trust God even more. And God says, good. That's where I've wanted you. You know, COVID didn't surprise God. I tell people that all the time.
No.
God isn't surprised by what's happened in your life. God's not surprised what's happening in the world today. God's got a plan, a hope, a future for each one of you. And now it's important for us just to be able to hear his voice.
You know, I mentioned earlier that at the first of COVID, I kind of just my faith, I just became distant with God. And, you know, it was just, like I said, we were going to church every Sunday and I was praying every day. And then when COVID hit, you're held hostage in your house, basically, you know, for a while. And my wife and I both really drifted away. But within the last 6 or 7 months, we have really got our faith back and leaned on him. And you know what? I'm not glad that COVID happened, but God turned that into a good thing, because he's allowed us to be at home with him, and it's really helped us. So it's interesting how God can take all the no's that I've been told over and over, it seems like, since I started this. Those no's, the no's that I got, those weren't my blessings. They went to somebody else, and I'm happy. I'm okay with that, because the yeses that I did get, they were my blessings and they were right for me. I look back at all the projects that I didn't get, I wouldn't have been able to do them.
Yeah.
Especially when I was younger. And so God knows exactly what he's doing. And when I'm supposed to be on a set, he'll put me there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
he'll put me there for the right reasons. And so I just have to trust in him.
Well, Dean, what I'm going to do is down below in the comment section, I'm going to put your credits and your websites, and how people can see what you've done, how others can get a hold of you if they're looking to have you audition and work for a film. But more important than that, folks, I want you, when you see Dean in a movie, or see some of the movies that he's in, or think about him, I want you to take some time and pray for him, because God has got a future and a hope and a plan for him, just as well he's got a future, a hope and a plan for you. And I want you to pray for him, that God would bless him. In praying for him, you're also God's going to bless you through the praying for him. We need to lift each other up in prayer. I think that's so important when you hear of somebody. Pass this message on. There's some people who need to hear this interview, and they need to hear that God is a God of second chances. He could restore marriages. He could restore families. He could restore what seemed to be destroyed. I remember God giving me a song one time, just one line of a song, and I don't even remember the whole song. It was in a worship service, but the song said, "What was lost in battle will be restored and more." That is what I held on to, because that was a word that was spoken to me. And sometimes God will take an interview like this and speak to you. So I want you to pass it on to somebody else. Dean, I want to thank you for taking the time and sharing the transparency of your heart of what God's brought you through and where you're at today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I want you to know that for the people that watch this, I will be praying for everybody that watches this too.
Amen.
So I'll be praying that in my prayer log every day. And and here's another thing. You see people on the street, and you tell them you have a problem or whatever. Hey, yeah, I'll pray for you. And I always wonder, are they really? But I really do. I write all my prayers down, and I really do pray for people. So I just wanted you to know that. So
well, thank you
so much for having me here.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me, and keep coming back for some more.
I will, for sure.
For Morning Moments. God bless you.
All right. Thank you. Okay.